Hey y'all, um, just getting in front of the camera a little bit, talk about some fish tank related stuff. So this video I'm going to talk about my top 5 favorite fish. So, sorry this setup's a little janky, this is the first time doing this, so I'm, the way I have the camera positioned I have to constantly keep looking at it. I want to make sure I got the tank kind of in the background. So, my number 1 favorite fish, as a lot of you probably know this, is white cloud mountain minnows. I like the golden ones the best, but there's something about the standard ones that I also like quite a bit. Actually, years and years and years ago, the standard ones used to be my favorite, and that's kind of really what got me into schooling fish, was having the standard white cloud minnows. I used to have a 20-gallon tall tank, and I had both white cloud, the golden white clouds, and the standard ones. It was pretty cool. It didn't last very long. That was in the beginning of my fish keeping stages. That was probably about 10, 12 years ago. So that's before I really knew anything about anything. Um, yeah, so this current point in time, white cloud mountain minnows for me, number 1. Number 2, I'd have to say fancy guppies. If anyone's looked back at my videos, they know this tank used to be mostly fancy guppies in it. At one point, I had to think about 25 of them in there, and they were really cool. I got them at the now. On a side note, I got them at the now defunct LFS near me called, what the heck is it called? SeaWorld Flower Barn. They went out of business recently. But that's where I always used to have luck getting them. They had a particular strain there I really liked. They had yellowish orange colored ones. Yeah, they were really super cool. They'd eat anything. I had algae on driftwood in there at one point, and they actually completely cleaned off the driftwood of the algae. Yeah, so I was kind of bummed when I had to tear down the tank when we moved, because it used to be my old mobile home where I lived at. I used to live in a mobile home, I'll say it. Which is where this tank was first at. For the first 6 months of the tank that I had it, it had fancy guppies in it. Just because I was stuck on them, I really liked them. The only thing I didn't like about them is they would die quite a bit. They'd breed like nobody's business, so I'd constantly see baby guppies in there. It was really cool. I feel like that's something you'd like to see have success with. Supposedly white clouds are really easy to breed, but I haven't had any luck. So I don't know what to think about that. Yeah, fancy guppies, number 2 for me. Number 3, I'd have to say, would be glow light tetras. They're kind of a bland fish, but I'm really kind of stuck on them. Their colors are not the greatest, but I'm really kind of stuck on them because back when I used to have this tank set up, with fancy guppies, around the tail end of it before I tore it down before we moved. So I had a school of 9 glow light tetras that I got just on a whim because they were cheap. I got them from an LFS I was looking around at, and they were really cool. I liked the color on them, the shape of them. Didn't really school the best, but yeah, I still, whenever I go by the LFS, I kind of think about it, I kind of wish I had some glow light tetras. Yeah, I really like them. Yeah, the kind of orange colored clear sheen, the glow light, I guess, if you will. It's really cool. Glow light tetras, number 3. Number 4, and on a side note, I've kept all these fish at some point. I think it's important to talk about things in your top lists that you've actually had or had experience with. That's just me. Number 4 would have to be a neon tetra. So years ago, I used to keep neon tetras a lot. I had a 55-gallon at one point where I had just 20 neon tetras, and it was the bomb. I loved it. I also had a 40 breeder where I had neon tetras. It was also really cool. but that's one of the things I always go back on. Thinking about is when I used to live at home, I had a 55 gallon, with tons of neon tetras. It was awesome. The only thing is, when they died, they kind of all went. One would die, another would die, this one would die, that one would die. So eventually, I was kind of down to, like, I don't know, maybe 6 or something like that. I don't know, but I actually got them years ago from PetSmart on a deal. I don't usually believe in buying fish from PetSmart personally. It's not something I would do, but this particular PetSmart was really good. Their tanks look good, and they had neon tetras for $5. So you really can't beat $5 neon tetras. I mean, if the source looks good, in my opinion, then try it out. But I don't generally buy fish from Petco or PetSmart. I only buy it from my LFS. So, and there's a few LFS that I will actually only buy them from. That I've actually had them live. Actually, I've kind of went to just buying them directly from Aquahuna. Anyways, I'm getting off topic here. Yeah, I really love the the bluish red color on the neon tetra. There's something about them. They're so simple and yet so cool. I'm kind of leery of getting them now because of how much I've had them die in the past. I like having bulletproof fish, like these white clouds. Even if one dies, generally nothing else happens. I had one die a while back, and that was it. So, I've heard you can keep neon tetras with cherry shrimp, and my experience was not really good with that. They just ate the cherry shrimp. So, yeah, number 4, neon tetras. Number 5 is a fish I've kept before in a tank a long time ago. Colombian tetras. Really cool looking, kind of unique, kind of a larger body tetra. They're kind of aggressive a little bit. They can get really rambunctious. I used to keep them in a tank that was called a 53 long, or not long, tall, I'm sorry. So basically it was a 40 breeder, but instead of being 16 inches, it was 21 inches tall. It's weird because if you plug the dimensions in a line, it'll come out to 58 gallons. I don't know. Maybe it's made by Marineland. It's not a common size. So I used to have a tank where I had a bunch of Colombian tetras and neon tetras, and it was a really cool tank. They're cool fish. I used to have a 75 actually years ago too. Where I had them in it. I think it was just them by themselves, and it was really cool. They school really good, at least in my experience. Even when they're in the tank by themselves, they're kind of a heavier schooling fish, it seems like. Unlike your neons or your glow lights, they don't really school much. So kind of shoal a little bit, but that's about it. I like the distinctive shape of the Colombian tetra. They're not very common though. I don't really see them anywhere. I don't see them at my LFS, not usually. The only place I really see them, honestly, is like around here we have these stores called Meijer's. It's like a Walmart basically. It's a regional kind of store. I do a lot of shopping there, but they have fish tanks here. They always have Colombian tetras. So yeah, number 5, Colombian tetra. I got a few other fish maybe I'll mention, but they're not really on my top list. I've taken quite a liking recently to actually X-ray or golden Prestella tetras. Saw them at DeMeyer's recently, and I was like, man, these look really cool. And they seem like they school really good. I feel like if you had a tank with just them, a good size, like long planted tank, it'd look really, really awesome. What else? A few others. I like rummy nose tetras a lot. I've had a lot of experience with them, but like my old 55 gallon, I actually used to have at one point. I had, I think, 20 neon tetras and maybe like 12 to 14 rummy nose tetras. The reason they're not in my top 5 though is because they're not usually my go-to fish. They're a little bit too sensitive for me. I like a little bit. They don't really stick out in my mind as my go-to. I mean, they're really cool for schooling and stuff, and then they look, they're peaceful and all that. But it's just my personal thing. I don't kind of wouldn't usually go for them. Another one is Bloodfin Tetras. I quite like Bloodfin Tetras. I've had them in the past. One thing I kind of noticed about them is they're really like hyper, really skittish. You could walk by the tank and it'll like swim the opposite way. I used to have them at one point. I redid my 55 that I had years ago. Um, I had the neon tetras in it, and then at one point I completely redid everything, changed it up, and then I had a school of Bloodfin tetras. They were really big too. I got them from LFS. It was pretty far out for me. They had them really big. They had to have been, I swear, about maybe that big. They were really cool though. Yeah, kind of skittish though, but it seems like they always schooled really, really good. I like tighter schooling fish, even though my white clouds don't really school very much. I mean, they kind of show a little bit, and they like to be together. They like to be in a school, but they don't, you know, yeah, they don't completely school all the time. They mostly kind of school after a little bit of a water change. So, depending on how stressed out they get, yeah. So yeah, that's my top 5. I'm kind of working on these videos, trying to see what works. If this don't look good on the video, I'm sorry. I'm kind of working for my selfie cam, so I don't know. I can't really see it that well. So I'm gonna make some other top 5s though, just to see, what people think. I got some other thoughts about stuff, my opinions, my favorites, things like that. All right, I think that's it. I'm out.